I'm really excited. We are joined today by Breezeway's founder and CEO, Jeremy Gall, who's gonna give some thoughts on the report. And so I think we've given people a couple of minutes. This is all being recorded. I'll just put that out there too. This is recorded. You will get a recording of the webinar if you have to take a call or you have to duck out. So I promise we will send this to you later today or tomorrow. But let's do quick intros. If you've joined before, you know me, I'm Koryn. I do our monthly webinars and I am the VP of community here at Breezeway. Who you really want to get to know if you don't already know him is Jeremy. So Jeremy, let me give us a little intro to you.
Oh, wow. Hi, Koryn. Thanks for having me. I haven't been on an Elevate webinar in a long time, so happy to be here. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm Jeremy Gall. I'm the founder and CEO of Breezeway, and got a long history in the vacation rental industry, a long history of working with Koryn, both at Flipkey, TripAdvisor, and then here at Breezeway. And really excited to be here today and talk about this state of work report. We've done operational reports in the past, but I'm really excited about this one and the way that the team put this together this year. So excited to talk through it.
Amazing. So for folks who maybe don't know, so we have done reports here at Breezeway. I'm going back here for a second, but we've done reports here at Breezeway for the last few years. In 2023, and even for a few years before that, we did a report that was our property operations report. Then last year we sort of switched it up a little bit and we went to an ROI report. By the way, all of these are downloadable on our website if you want to go back and look at the archives. But this year we changed it up again and we went with the state of work report. So Jeremy, I'm sort of curious, like, tell us, where that shift came from.
Well, I think what we've started to realize, and it's there's been a gradual trend in this direction, right? That when we started Breezeway, we're thinking about operational efficiency, how to help you do a better job, such a strong focus on task management and the work that needs to get done. And as we've continued to add automation to that and build out that product, we've developed an even deeper appreciation and sort of a perspective on the market and on this work about how that work is connected to the rest of your business, right? And so you've seen us do this with products like messaging and guide and assist and these products that we've added where we're using sort of the connection of the work that needs to be done and how that drives the guest experience and is really related to how you communicate at the property and how you share information with the guest and then how you share the status of the task and things like that. And then the new part of that sort of ecosystem and that philosophy is like a deeper appreciation and a stronger connection to the people who are doing that work, right? So as you get better about driving automation and understanding everything about your properties and how these tasks are related to the guest experience, it's opened up a lot of room for us over the last 12 months to be thinking more about the people who are doing that work and how they interact with that task and how they are really the driving force of what it's like to deliver hospitality in this space. And so you might have seen this if you read through the report, but in the letter at the beginning, we just think that like it's these people that really drive hospitality. You all know this inherently, or we hear this whenever we all get together, we talk about this, but having the right tools for your team to actually execute on that and empower your people to do that with the right balance of automation and the human touch, that's what's really important. I'm seeing in the chat, people having trouble hearing me? Do I need a different mic? I'm seeing from Ashley.
Anybody else having trouble hearing Jeremy? You're just not very loud. No one has ever said that.
I got to talk louder. All right, we'll have to figure this out. We'll see if we can figure this out. But I think that balance at the beginning that balance at the center is really what we focused on. And I think that comes out through this state of work in this report that we've put together. Bruno says it's perfect. Appreciate that, Bruno.
You started talking louder. I think we're good. If you're still having trouble, let us know, guys.
Um, yeah, and so I think that answers your question, Corinne, but I think that's why it's more about like the state of work. And because one of the things we've been thinking about, and then I'll stop and sort of turn this over, but been thinking a lot. We talked, there's a lot of, thankfully, 10 years ago, there wasn't quite as much. I don't think people talked about the guest experience.
Yeah.
They knew what it was, but there wasn't this like emphasis on it or tools that are focused just on the guest experience. And certainly there weren't as many operationally focused tools in the market 10 years ago. But I think um, with unreasonable hospitality and everyone thinking about that book, there's so much talk about that hospitality experience, but when you think about it, what ends up driving a truly like you walk away from a hospitality experience, someone like a person had to do something and take like extra effort for you to actually feel that hospitality experience.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a transaction. So you could be staying in an incredible rental. You could be staying in a run-of-the-mill hotel. And if someone is taking some human effort that you can actually feel and doing a little extra, then you walk away with this feeling that this was a hospitality experience and that somebody really cares. They care about what's going on. But it takes real work and it takes human work to do that. And it's incredibly difficult. And so that's why we talk about this balance. And this is the thing that has our driving force and is driving a lot of energy within Breezeway for our product development and what you'll see a lot from us over the future, over the next couple of years.
I love that. And I think, Jeremy, the thing that you said, right, is it's either a transaction or it's an experience. And I think, I was in Jacksonville last week at a conference, and was facilitating a panel, and we had a question that we didn't get to. And so I don't know if she's on, but Jody Clear with I Love Vacations in a way, they had a scenario where a guest called with an air conditioning issue. Right. And they said, oh, we're so sorry. We'll get she would tell the story much better, but I'm paraphrasing. We'll bring out a portable AC device. And she was like, oh, thank you so much. I'm pregnant. And, I really need the AC. And as Jody was on her way, to actually deliver that portable AC, she stopped to get gas. And when she went in, two of the things she saw when she went into that gas station was pickles and ice cream. And she picked both of those things up and she walked into that unit or that property, right? And she said, we brought you the portable AC, but more importantly, here are pickles and ice cream, right? And that is that hospitality experience in a very clear definition.
It's incredible. And that guest is talking about that. It almost doesn't matter what else happened on their vacation. That guest is talking about that. Like that is the big memorable moment, I am sure, one of the memorable moments of that guest's vacation
Yeah.
that she will talk about forever. But you only have the room. I think the really interesting thing is like only when everything is working effectively and efficiently so that you can get the request hopefully the AC doesn't break to begin with, but
Right.
things happen. But only when you have the space to work effectively, react to that on time, have the process in place where you can execute to meet that demand, to meet that requirement and fulfill that service request, do you then have the space to think a little more about what's that extra little piece that you could do? And you can't do it
Right.
all the time, but if you don't have the baseline operational efficiency and optimization set up, you'll never be able to do it.
100%. And I think, before we get in, I know we're all here, we want to talk about the report, but I think this is a really great background about why we focused so many of the questions and what you're going to see in the findings that we share today around this piece of the business. But I think, the only other thing I would add to that is you also have to empower your teams to do those things on your behalf. And so, as you start to think about like, what am I going to do from here? It's how are you going to make sure that someone on your staff can actually make that decision and can spend that $20 at the gas station to improve that experience. And so I think, that's your first takeaway, is make sure your team has that leeway to do what's gonna create those experiences for folks. So let's get into the report. If I can figure out, there we go. Okay, so we started this survey earlier this summer. We put it out on social, through emails, to our clients, to our prospects, and we said, hey, tell us what you're doing. And so what we're going to look at here are the responses from over 350 hospitality professionals globally. And really a lot of different perspectives of the people who responded to this. So we didn't just say, hey, I want this to be the owners of the company, or I want this to be your director of operations. And I think we're going to see that when we look at a lot of these results, because we start to get those responses that actually sort of play into the different roles and the unique sort of needs and goals of the folks in the industry. So we had people from guest services to housekeepers to GMs to owner reps, all participate in this survey. We had companies of all different sizes. We had, and as you can sort of see in here, we had folks who have just maybe one or two properties to folks who have hundreds of properties. And so it really runs the gamut in the folks who actually sort of participated in this. And I think you'll see that reflected, because, right, we know that the work that is being done is highly complex. It's really collaborative. There's a lot of it happening. It's fast moving. There are regularly changes that are coming in. And so want to talk about just, there's a lot more stats that are in the report, but we pulled out a few of them here because we want to just talk about what some of that looks like. And so let's kick it off with this first one, right around the number of tasks that folks are working on. Average of about 73% of our folks say they are completing more than 50 tasks a week. Obviously, that is all relative based off of the number of properties that you have, the type, the time of year. Are you in season? Are you out of season? But we also had a really high percentage of folks who responded to this who are like, hey, we're doing more than 100 tasks a week. And so I think that's a lot going into how much is happening. I was talking to someone the other day, and they said on average they're closing 500 to 700 work orders a month. And so this is big volume, lots of complexity. Sometimes it's a quick in and out and you can fix or remove something. Sometimes it's, hey, we've got to order a part, and then you're having that whole conversation. We also want to look, I'm going to skip down to the bottom right stat. So if you're following along, right, 90.2% of operators' work involves more than one person on a daily basis. Less than 2% of the people who responded say they're doing this individually. That's not hugely surprising, given that, you've got housekeepers and inspectors, and you've got maintenance techs, and everybody's sort of working together. But what I think is really interesting is sort of how they're working together, or sort of what that looks like, and sort of what some of those pain points look like. And some of it is, just chasing down information, right? We're not getting comprehensive data and insights from people who are maybe out in the field or who field a call from a guest. And so there is a lot of sort of like following up to find out and make sure that we've got the right information. Some of the folks who responded with lower property counts reported things like maybe manual scheduling, or missed or unclear sort of direction for their team. And I think, what we find in a lot of those scenarios is, a lot of people think, oh, I have to get to a certain size before I can use a product like Breezeway. That is so not true. We have clients who have 1 property, 3 properties, 10,000 properties. I think the difference is how you are looking at it. And Jeremy, you talked about it a little bit, earlier, how you're looking at creating those experiences versus executing on transactions. And so I think that, as people grow and sort of get larger, they bring on more folks onto their team, or bring on more properties into their portfolio. They sort of, they get a little better at like telling people what needs to be done, or providing that guidance to their team. And they start using automation a bit more, so that they are not spending that time doing manual work, and they're really able to focus on the hospitality piece.
Yeah, I think this is a couple of stats that really stuck out to me. I think the last minute changes, guest related issues, some of those last minute changes are changes in reservations, changes in staff availability, who can get the work done, something that just like, cascades into another change that causes some operational issues. And then also, I think it's really interesting. It's obvious that I don't think this 90% stat is particularly like surprising, but I think it's worth digesting and internalizing how much the work involves coordinating with other people, and the fact that operations at vacation rentals and short-term rentals is so dynamic and requires such a mix of staff that like you really optimizing this piece of the workflow is really critical, and it's a different discipline than thinking about the booking and the reservation.
Absolutely. And I also will say, like, those numbers around how often are you experiencing last minute changes daily or weekly. Those, as we look at the results, were really consistent across all cohorts of company sizes. And so, I do think, right, when we think about those numbers, it's really important to make sure that as you're operating, that you've got the safeguards in place. What happens if it is a staff or a vendor related issue, right? Who's your backup? What's your backup plan? I think someone last week said in our industry you need a plan B, but you also need a plan C and a plan D, because inevitably things are going to move because it's just so complex. And we have to be able to deliver on all of those promises, both to the guests who choose to book with you, but also to the homeowners who trust you with their properties. And so it is not surprising, right? I don't think, to your point, I don't think that we're going to see huge surprise as from the folks on this call when it's like, hey, 85% of respondents say that the guest expectations have grown over the last 2 years. I think we're seeing that for a multitude of reasons. I think we are, continuing to see more sort of first time VR STR guests. We're seeing more folks who are, they've stayed in hotel, and so they have hotel like expectations. I mean, I'm sure folks on this call, you probably get messages all the time about, I need more towels, and it's like, great, there's your washer and dryer, right? That's not what you get in this scenario, right? We're going to provide you that information, but we are seeing a lot more of that. And I would imagine that we're probably going to get to a point where it sort of plateaus as we sort of continue to get wider in the scope of our guests. I also want to share with you guys, though, when we asked this question, we asked a follow-up, which was around like, but why? What are sort of the most common issues? Why are we, thinking that they're more demanding, that the expectations are higher? And I'm not going to read through all of these, but they are all here on the screen. Take a look, and I would be willing to bet money that almost everyone on this call has received has received one of all of these in the last 30 days at their companies. And the reality is, I think that we are going to continue to see that. I don't think that, things aren't going to break no matter how well you prepare, how often you're doing preventative maintenance, or how great your cleaners are, or how much you tell people where to find information about the property, whether it's through your pre-arrival messaging or whether it's through guidebooks or whatever the case is. We know that half of them aren't reading the stuff that you're giving them. And that's just sort of the nature of where we're at. So I don't think that we're going to really see any of this stuff drastically decrease. But what I think is changing and has changed over the past few years is there are more and more tools available to you to differentiate how you respond and manage all of these things, right? When we think about like staff burnout, we think about that call that comes in at 2 a.m. For something that's totally not a 2 a.m. worthy call. It happens. But you are, we at Breezeway now offer our assist product, right? And so you can have an extension of your team, someone else who's going to answer that call and help deem, is this actually something that needs to be escalated, or is this something that can be looked at 9 a.m.? So I think it's about how we react to and resolve these issues, not that they're not going to keep happening.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I just think that there's like global expectation changes. I would bet most of us are guilty of it, where we expect the service that we're interacting with will respond to us quickly, and solve the problem and give us multiple ways to do it, right? Whether you're changing an airline ticket or flying through an affiliate airline, needed a different record locator. It wasn't the same one. Trying to get that solved via chat while I'm waiting in line to check in, and just the expectation that somebody should be able to do that really quickly and just figure it out. It's pretty complicated. Just two different airlines, two different systems. And to their credit, they almost did it faster than me waiting in line at the check-in line. But I think there's just like consumers expect that kind of like really quick answer, so you're curious about something in the property, or you hear a weird noise, or you don't know how the air conditioning works, or something happens in the middle of the night, um, and you're really quick to just reach out. It's also the nature of asynchronous text messaging. You feel like you can send them, and it's not, I'm not calling you, but I am sending you that message, and now there's a expectation that you will reply. And if you don't reply, depending on the channel where someone booked, maybe you're even going to get dinged for it, from a marketing perspective. So it's wildly important, and it's really no surprise that guest expectations are rising. And I think there's no way around it except to think about how you can efficiently leverage different channels to provide the information, be responsive, and I think importantly, tie it back to the work that you're actually going to do, right? You have to be able to execute back on what you're explaining to the guest, what you're telling the owner you're going to do. You have to follow through. So being able to tie that communication back to the work is what drives the experience.
Well, Jeremy, that's so funny that you mentioned the owner there, because we're actually going to go over to our next slide, because the guests aren't the only ones who have higher expectations. 79% of folks who responded to the survey said that they've seen owner expectations increase over the last year or two as well. And there was a very small percent, it was like less than 0.5%, that said that they'd actually seen owner expectations decrease. And for those folks, if any of you are the ones that are on this call, kudos to you, because I think you've got some really incredible owners there that are not sort of pushing. But I think we're seeing a lot of changes to the persona of our owners, and that folks are working with, right? I think there's a lot more folks who are getting in and they're purchasing properties that they're renting as investment properties, and they sort of have different expectations, right? They're looking for a lot more, transparency. They're online, they're understanding sort of what's happening in our market, and they're getting smarter about the questions that they're asking. So ADR and RevPAR and all of those things, they're sort of understanding that a bit more and bringing it up. We still obviously have a lot of folks who are legacy owners who their homes in the business or their second homes that they come to for short periods of time. But I think a lot of this has to do with just a different persona that we're looking at as owners now.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, when we built long ago, far away, when we started building Breezeway, like part of the idea was really around developing your relationship with the property and with the asset so that you could lean into additional asset management, define your brand that way, even use it as a revenue driving opportunity to sell different maintenance programs to owners. We've done so much work to make that more of a reality in the platform. And we continue to with some new stuff that's coming around owner reporting and owner management, which we're really excited about. But no surprise that owners are micromanaging. They feel some stress, right? Interest rates haven't helped. The COVID hangover of buying a property at the height and thinking you were going to cash flow um, your vacation rental. It's just really, really tricky. And yeah, we're seeing this in the chat. It's not necessarily bad, but it is pressure. It is pressure for you. which is just pressure you have to deal with. And I think the more tools you have at your disposal to help owners understand the work that you're doing, the better off you are.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's true not only for the owners that you already have, but also the more that you can use the work that you're doing to attract and win new owners, that's also a big one. So we asked as a follow-up to that question, what are some of the ways that you are taking the work that you're doing and the work that your team is doing, and emphasizing that as you go into these conversations with new owners. And so what you're looking at here, what you're looking at here on the screen, right, are the top, what, 7 answers. Cleaning and turnover standards being one of the top. But, you know, Jeremy, to your point, asset management with what are you doing from a preventative perspective to make sure that my home is well maintained, also, you know, falls into the inspection process, and the local expertise, right? I think we sort of seeing a shift in, hey, it's, you know, we don't want this big box company. We want the people who know the area, who know, hey, when an appliance breaks, who am I calling, right? They understand and they can make recommendations to the guests around where to go to dinner, or which beach is best, or which mountain they should hit up. And then also, you know, folks are of course starting to tout. We saw it in the chat, as Jeremy said, you know, owners are getting smarter as they're sort of making people work harder. Work harder. I don't know. You guys work very, very hard. This is probably one of the toughest jobs. So I don't want to say work harder as in like, oh, you weren't working hard before, but really leaning into what you're doing from tech and automation and driving efficiency, I think is really important, because what that does, right, is that allows you to sort of lean on what Jeremy sort of alluded to at the beginning of the conversation, which is what we look at is like one of your greatest assets, right, are the people that are doing the work. And I was shocked by this first stat, like mind blown away, because everybody that I talked to is like, oh my gosh, we recognize our teams. We talk about how great they are, and we do all of these things, and we have these incentive programs. But the people who were responding, almost 1 in every 5, 18.4%, said that they aren't getting formal recognition of the work that they're doing. And so I challenge everybody to sort of think about, what are you doing in your businesses? And is it resonating with the folks who you're talking about? But I like legitimately mind blown by this stat. I thought this number would have been like so low, or so high, sorry, of folks who don't feel like, or who feel like they're getting that. I think this is crazy. This is a little crazy to me. But I think it's a huge opportunity for us as an industry to really lean on the people and make sure that they feel appreciated for the work that they're doing.
Well, you tied this back to the last couple of slides, and maybe 50% of this 18% are, you know, owner managers who just get no recognition, get no formal recognition from their owners,
Yeah.
which I think is a real problem. Which is that you just don't get a lot of. There's demands from your owner to provide to maximize revenue, provide an incredible experience when they come, provide a hospitality experience to them when they show up, because you have the benefit, you have the privilege of managing their home, and then also provide very detailed asset management and tons of information about how you're doing it. And I bet you don't get a lot of kudos and recognition from your owners about the work that you're actually doing. I bet it's
Fair.
pretty thankless.
And that's pretty fair. I will say that when we asked sort of how are you recognized as sort of a follow-up, some of the common ones were internal recognition, they were spot bonuses, they were team celebrations, small gifts, peer awards. So I definitely think that it is happening. But again, I challenge everybody to sort of go back to their teams and say, how do you react to this? Do you feel like you're getting that that recognition, and what could we do more of, or how could we change it? I just saw on LinkedIn this morning, they did a card, and I don't know if Logan is on here, but they did like a card for their team to sort of recognize their peers, and it's called a GSD, Get Sheet because it's a cleaning company, get sheet done. I thought that was really cool, really, fun play on words to be able to say, hey, we want our individuals, because I do think, I've been doing a lot of conversations with folks who are in the properties all the time, and interacting with guests. And so much of it is about this team effort. And I think this goes into it goes into one of the next things we're going to talk about here, which is the why behind the people, the why behind the work that's getting done. And it isn't about getting paid. In fact, your salary and the money that you get was the fifth reason that people said they work really hard. And that motivation really is about the level of pride that they take in the work. It's about the camaraderie and the team and working together to like create this incredible experience for your guests and for your owners. And so again, I this is one of my favorite stats from this as well, is that like a third of the people who are doing the work do it because they take such pride in their work. And I think that's, again, really telling about the folks who are in properties every day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So let's make sure. I will tell you, it also motivates us. It motivates us to try and build. I'm seeing some of the notes in the chat, et cetera, and some of the questions. Like, it really does motivate us that we understand. I think we have a good understanding of the dedication that people have in this industry, and it motivates us to try and build better tools to help them because we
Yeah.
know how hard they're working.
This is not rehearsed, you guys. I promise that Jeremy just fed me right into our
I haven't even read the report yet.
he's read the report. He's joking. He's right. He might not have looked at my slides, but he read the report. But it does go into the fact that the dedication of the folks, and that technology is an enabler to the work. It is not a replacement to the people that are out in the field doing this work on a daily basis. 67, we talk a lot about tech and AI and automation, and we do that a lot here at Breezeway as well. But when we started asking people, are you concerned that AI is going to take over your job? They are not. I think it was like 3%. It's on the bottom of the second stat here. 3.6% worry that AI will replace them. But 67% say, hey, AI is going to change the way they do their job over the next few years. And I think that's a really telling sign, right? We talk a lot about making space to do to deliver on hospitality, and that is the real powerhouse behind how you can incorporate technology into your business. I this sticks with me. Gosh, it's been a year and a half ago, and Jeremy, you were there sitting with me. We were at a dinner at an executive summit, and someone said, Breezeway and tech in general, right? But they were talking specifically about Breezeway, has allowed my team to focus on the things that tech can't do, because we're confident in the work that is being done, and the automations that are happening, right? 47.8, almost 50% of people are saying that more than half their work is automated as it pertains to like being scheduled and things like that. And so when you can have that confidence in what is actually being created and put in place to empower your team to go out and do those things that are going to create those special memories, that is where you sort of hit that special sauce.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. AI will absolutely change the workflow of hospitality. It will absolutely, it already has, and it will continue to have a very substantial effect, positive effect on reducing some of the administrative workflow for hospitality. We will continue to lean into that at Breezeway as well, with automations and agent workflows, both across messaging and operations. But I would also say this, it's not going to replace you, but beware, right? For every benefit that this brings, I think this is going to be the really interesting thing for hospitality, is that the expectations, think about what will happen with owners and guests, right? Your demanding owners who are always wanting more from you are going to expect that you will be using AI and automation and technology to reduce your administrative workload. And so they're going to expect that you have more time to actually provide personalized, experiences to them. And so it's going to sort of, I think it will reduce this administrative workload, but it's going to shift even more of the work balance and sort of the expectations to like, how are you fulfilling the human part of what I'm asking you to do? Because you should actually have more time for that now. And that's going to be a really interesting dynamic to watch for.
I think you said it perfectly, and I don't know who put this. I mean, I don't know who responded to this and said, but automation, AI, you use those as you wish. It's gonna be the name of the game because it's going to free up time to devote to tasks that require those personal connections. And I think you're absolutely right, Jeremy. We're not. Maybe I'm wrong in what I said earlier about guest and owner expectations. Sort of leveling out, because I think what you just shared, right, is going to sort of bring a new nuance to that. So that's a good thought on that. We're going to end with this. It's not just about the properties, it's about the people. I think we've talked a lot about allowing people to do their work, well, and to can create consistent standards across what is going on. And I think I'll say this, and Jeremy, you can agree or disagree with me. I think you'll agree. But I think, one of the things that we're really excited about is to be able to give our clients a technology platform that enables them to do their work better, more efficiently, more effectively. And that really does bring it back to the people and the work that's being done, which this entire report sort of centers around.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it is a balance. I'm seeing Kathleen's comment in the chat. I think it's totally true. I think it's unfair, right? It's a really tough job. You're supposed to be a marketing expert, and be able to market just as well, as a large OTA. You're meant to be a revenue and accounting expert, a property management and maintenance expert. And yes, I think there's a little bit of an unfair expectation that you are a tech expert and that you're an AI expert. And if you're not, what are you doing? But like, it's just really interesting, right? This is a service is what gets delivered, and service gets delivered by people. You don't walk into a restaurant and expect that the restaurant is like, tech savvy. You expect they're really good at service, at the food that they provide, that they care exceptionally about the people and a great atmosphere, and that they're going to take care of you. And so I think it's a little bit of an unfair burden that's placed on vacation rental managers when it comes to be this like tech expert as well. But this has been an industry that's been very tech forward, and I think is really aware of the challenges that they face and how technology can help. And yes, that does mean there's some pressure about how those things work together, and how those tools work together, and what kind of support you'll get. It's one of the reasons we try to invest even more in customer support. And so, keep us honest, maybe not right now in the chat, but you can always get in touch with Koryn and myself. We invest a lot in support to try and make sure that we can reduce that learning curve and help you work effectively. But yeah, properties are the product, but it's the people who deliver the service, and it's actually the service that's the true product, and it's the only like defensible product.
Agreed. We are right on time for where I expected we would land. We are going to open it up to some Q&A. So if you do have questions, feel free to throw those into the chat or the Q&A section. I think we got to most of the comments that came in while we were talking. While we wait for a second, I'm realizing I did not do a great job of this. So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen here in just 1 second, and I'm gonna actually grab this for you all. I should have put, how do you get the report if you don't already have it? I didn't think about that until right now. So I'll get it for you while we're live on the call. But while we're doing that, let's just look at two new things. If you guys are looking at how you can join us to learn more from Breezeway in the future, on October 8th, we have got a What's New at Breezeway webinar. That's where we look back at all of the product improvements and the new features and functionality that are available in your account over the last quarter. And sometimes we tease some new stuff that's coming, so you don't want to miss that. I'm guessing you also many of you saw our coming soon email that went out with a number of new pieces of functionality that the team is working on, which we're really excited about. And then we have our monthly October Elevate, which is on October 30th. And time change, guys, I know we usually do these at 2:00. It is at 3:00 that day. So October 30th at 3:00 will be our Elevate if folks want to register for either of those. I am going to stop the share. I'm going to get the link for you all to download the report, and I'll put it in the chat. But any questions that are coming in from everybody while I grab that for you all?
There's a question from Michelle. Michelle, give us a little more detail in the chat, unless Koryn, you got.
Oh, I know what you're looking for, Michelle. I think you're looking for additional departments. Meaning you can have an administrative,
and have it be automatically scheduled next to and have it be automatically scheduled along with the clean.
That's what I'm guessing. Michelle, tell us. Yeah, additional department. You are in luck. That was in our coming soon email. I will put the link to that as well. But the team has been feverishly working on that. That is something that we're expecting to be able to put out. I think there's like 17 of them, 17 new departments, 14 new departments that we're going to be launching here in the future, in the near future. Right now,
very good. Should help you add a layer of organization. There's a couple of these things that we're doing like this. One of them is departments. Another one is sort of smart folders within messaging, so that you can separate messaging between guests, messaging with owners, messaging with your staff, and in the future, messaging with service providers, so that we know that there's plenty of you where coordinating between those different groups is really important. And it also helps you just separate from priority, like which one is which. So we'll automatically throw those into smart folders. Product ordering. Really interesting, Gail. We've thought about this. We're going to do a little bit more with, I love this. It's going to turn into
welcome to Elevate, Jeremy.
Yeah, this is sweet. How much time do we have?
Listen.
We could be here for a while. Yep. I like it. We've thought a lot about that. I don't know how much I can tell or not tell without getting in trouble, but we've been working on new versions of our API and our partner API. And we have a couple of partners in mind that then we can work much more closely with the supplies and inventory part of the product, which can help with automated purchasing and refilling of stock. So it's not going to come as quick as departments and some of the other things that we've already told you about, but it's definitely being worked on, and the new API will help support that, and a couple of other really interesting use cases so that you can work more effectively. We want to make it easier to work more effectively with some of our really qualified partners, so that the tech stack just becomes a little simpler for you. Same reason why we're getting involved, heavily involved with locks and lock management, so that you can make that a lot more seamless with your workflow and generating codes for staff and service providers, etc.
And I did link, guys, in the chat, if you didn't have a chance to look, I did link both the report, so you can download the report, and also that coming soon blog post that we talked about. That is going to talk about a lot of the things that Jeremy just mentioned to give you a little bit more information. And if you come to the webinar on the 8th, we'll probably talk about it a little bit more. So be sure to join us then as well.
Yeah, Margaret noted here in your question on owner relation managers. I think additional departments will help set that up, because then you can have specific tasks that are tagged that way. That should be a step in the right direction, but we will keep moving on it, and I'll keep your comment in mind. And we can get you in touch as we, after we release the next round of like owner reporting customization, we can get in touch to get more of your feedback on that. So appreciate that.
Amazing. All right. I think we got to most. Alex, I'll connect with you offline on some of those questions. Although you do have Jeremy here. I love that you directly directed that question to him and not me, because you know what my answer is going to be. But I'll get in touch with you. I know you had sent a couple of messages and give you a little bit more information on what we know. Or I'll have Chris do it. Either way, we'll get you the answers you need. And yes, Ashley, the QR code is back up for what's new at Breezeway.
Well, this is incredible, Koryn. Koryn doesn't, spends so much energy and effort. She deserves a lot of appreciation for all she does for the vacation rental community, both here at the VRMA, etc. And really appreciate you having me on, Koryn. Excellent job. Everyone who's here, we have such deep appreciation for the work that you do for your clients and for your guests, and an equally deep appreciation for trusting us to help you with this detailed work, and try to make it better for you. So thank you so much. Thanks for being here. I guess let's go get sheet done, apparently.
I mean, it was amazing. I just saw it on LinkedIn this morning. But what I loved about it, though, was it's that peer-to-peer connection. And as I've been talking to people, that just continues to push people to do more and to be better and to want to get that recognition. And I think that's something that we can all learn from. So Logan, if you're on here, thanks for putting that up this morning so I could use it in this conversation. But this was so fun. Jeremy, thanks for joining us. I know you don't come to you don't get to come to these all the time. So it was fun to have you on.
You have to invite me on more frequently. I guess
all right. Well, you did pretty well. So I think we'll have you back. I think we'll have you back. For everybody who joined us today, thanks so much. For those who are listening who did not get to join us live, we hope that you got some good information and that you take a minute to download that report. And we will see you all. Well, I'll see you all. Betsy, I'll see you next week. But I'll see the rest of you guys on the 8th here online, and then later in the month as well. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.